November 9, 1997. Survivor Series, Montreal, Quebec, Canada. What was supposed to be a championship match turned into the biggest betrayal in wrestling history. This is the story of the Montreal Screwjob. Bret the Hitman Hart was a legend in the WWF, a 5-time World Wrestling Federation champion, a hero to Canadian fans, respected in the locker room, loved by millions. They called him the excellence of execution. Then there was his longtime rival, Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. Flashy, arrogant, controversial, he was everything Bret wasn't. The two men had real-life tension, and it wasn't just part of the show. Behind the scenes, a major shift was happening. Bret Hart had signed a deal to leave WWF and join WCW, Vince McMahon's biggest rival. But there was a problem. Bret was still the WWF champion. Vince McMahon feared the worst, that Bret might show up on WCW television with the WWF Championship belt. That would destroy the WWF's credibility. Vince needed the title back, but Bret had creative control in his contract, and Bret refused to lose the belt in Canada. In front of his hometown crowd, he offered to drop the title the next night, but Vince didn't trust him. Survivor Series, main event, Bret Hart vs. Shawn Michaels. One last time, the match was intense, emotions were real. Near the end, Shawn Michaels locked Bret into his own move, the sharpshooter. And then, suddenly, the bell rang. Bret never tapped out. The referee, Earl Hebner, called for the bell on Vince's orders. It was a setup. The crowd was confused. Bret was furious. He stood in the middle of the ring, realizing he had been betrayed by the company he had carried on his back for years. He got up, looked straight at Vince McMahon, and spit in his face. Backstage, chaos erupted. Bret destroyed monitors. He punched Vince in the locker room. It wasn't a wrestling storyline anymore. It was real. This moment became known as the Montreal Screwjob, and it would change wrestling forever. It shattered trust in the business. It exposed the truth behind the curtain. And it gave birth to the infamous character, Mr. McMahon, the evil boss who would become the face of the Attitude Era. Years later, Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels would bury the hatchet. They shook hands, but the scar of that night never fully healed, because the Montreal Screwjob wasn't just a finish. It was a betrayal, a legacy. The night wrestling changed forever.